The hospitality room is live and cooking with crock pots. Bobby Swofford, Blair Cartwright with you. Mr. Swofford, how are you on this? I don't even know what day it is anymore, but it's warm out, at least, kind of.
Yeah, I've got shorts on today. It's beautiful.
Wow.
I've finally got tired of sitting at home, and so I came to the office, as we can see here. Which oddly enough, I came in early today, and there was three others of us here who were
Oh,
tired of being at
nice.
home. So had a little nice impromptu staff lunch. Just and trying to catch up on with all the world. And the first story on ESPN.com: Miami tight end Cam McCormick granted ninth year of eligibility.
That's
I think he was. I
insane.
think he went to high school the year after I did.
Yeah. I mean, how? Yeah, I saw a headline. I didn't click it, but how does that even happen?
Let's read the story together. Began his career at Oregon in, wait for it, 2016. Missed
Good
significant parts of
Lord.
4 different seasons due to injury. Got the COVID years along with his redshirt year. So the NCAA allows his petition for a ninth grade year, but Tauli Tungavailoa can't get credit for taking 2 knees in a game and getting a game back, which would give him another year of eligibility.
Yeah, it makes no
Getting, I
sense. Well, at some
mean,
point, you'd think that many injuries, maybe you just ought to hang it up, right?
yeah. Well, anytime you're too old to date a fellow classmate in college, it's time to go. And so he's now to the point where he is going to be 8 years, 9 years older than some of his classmates.
He's going to be older by years than anybody on the BYU roster, which is a big
Yeah,
sign of it's get a job.
that's
Wow.
that's unreal. He's 25 years old.
That's nuts.
25.
How many degrees does he have? He should have like at least five or
That
six.
yeah, that's what would come to play, because if he doesn't have at least a master's by now, what's going on?
Yeah. He's not doing it right if he doesn't have a
Yeah.
master's yet. Good Lord. That's insane. All right. Let's get right to our headlines, shall we? Well, they lost at Florida, but the Hogs hit the mark against Texas A&M.
Yeah.
Wow. Uh, almost, I mean, literally blew a 20-point lead until
Mm-hmm.
that last second shot. Man, is it one of those games where, hey, maybe that's just what they needed, what the doctor ordered, they can turn it around?
Yeah, they needed something. I mean, honestly, the first 12 to 14 minutes of that game, you're thinking, okay, where's this team been all season been? They hadn't played that well since the Duke game. And then all of a sudden, the second half happens, and you expect A&M to make a run. Everybody in the conference is going to make a run at some point. But when they cut it to 6 and then the 4, it kind of hung around that number for quite a while. And then in the last couple of minutes, as Musselman's teams always do, they allow teams back in it because he starts, changing the offense and trying to limit the number of possessions. But defensively, they're just a bad team, Blair. I mean, that's really all it boils down to. They can't get stops when they need to. They allow way too much from the 3-point line. But granted, Mark saved the day. He outplayed. Was it Wade? Wade the fourth?
Yes. Well, I don't know if he outplayed him.
Well, the number of shots is why I say that. You,
Okay.
you take a look at the box score and what those two players did. It's really impressive. Obviously, 40 points is better than 35, but when you need 35 shots to get to 40 points,
Yeah.
it's not, to me, that's not a great day. So I don't know. I mean, it's a win that Arkansas needed. Does it save their season? Way too early to say. Did it prevent their season from being over? Possibly. I think that may be a better way to describe that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sitting there watching it, and you're like, A&M was picked to finish second preseason, and they airballed 3-pointers, free throws. I mean, it was just like, are you kidding me? They're supposed to be good, and they went to wall with Kentucky on Saturday.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, the last 10 minutes, nobody in Bud Walton Arena, and everybody moved out, and it was nice and intimate. Everybody was just waiting for the shoe to drop. I mean, you just saw the score just go tick, tick, tick. And you knew Wade was going to take every shot A&M had almost.
Yeah.
And that 3 he hit to give him the lead was insane.
Yeah. Bodies all over him right off a pick and roll at the top of the key.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, that may be the one possession Arkansas played pretty good defense on the 3-point line.
Oh, they did. I don't know how he even got the shot off, and then he makes it. And you're just like,
Yeah.
Oh, that's ridiculous.
13 of 32 from the field was Wade Taylor the fourth. 5 of 14 from three, 10 of 13. But 32 shots for, 41 points that's not a good ratio.
No.
Tremont Mark, though, efficient. Only 15 shots, but 17 of 22 from the foul line. And this is Musselman basketball at Arkansas.
Mm-hmm.
Guys getting to the foul line. Arkansas won so many games with Mason Jones and J.D. Notte by getting to the lane and getting those free points at the charity stripe. 31 of 40, mind you, from the foul line against Texas A&M. They gave up 33, and it was a foul fest. I will say that.
Yeah.
But Arkansas is better when they're attacking, not settling, not so much isolation, because you're not getting those calls. You're not getting the 50-50 call when you're just working an ISO play. Mm-hmm. If you get something going downhill towards the basket, that's when things are going to go your way. And then Devo, I don't know what the hell's going on with him. He's wasted minutes at this point.
Yeah, I'm totally at a loss for him. I'll tell you what, free throws were the difference in the ballgame. Arkansas, it seemed like, suddenly started making theirs, and A&M couldn't hit free throws in a crucial point, and it was huge. But, yeah, as soon as he started taking the air out, you're like, oh, my gosh. Well, I mean, at the 10-minute mark, and I'm just like, whoa, the math doesn't add up. But
back when I was working for the TV station, we talked. Well, he and I talked. It was after a one-on-one sit down, and we were somehow it got brought up. It might have been before when we were the whole micing up process, and we somehow the topic of not letting the air out of the ball, but like the whole thought process. And he's like, oh, we got a formula. He's like, it's now how big your lead is and the amount of time is because you're just counting possessions. Essentially, it's like, okay, possession is going to be, and he used some random number like 22 seconds because it's not the full shot clock, because rarely does it take the full shot clock. And he goes, all right, if we got a 16-point lead and there's this much time left, that means they got this number of possessions guaranteed. And so how much do they want to bleed that time down? I mean, it makes perfect sense on paper.
Yeah.
But you know how it is. The analytics are they are what they are, and some people buy into it, and when it works, it's great. It always worked at Nevada. It always seemed to work with Mason Jones and those teams and the teams of the past. Problem is when you got a 18-point lead on Texas A&M and you let them get all the way back and trying to do that thing, you got a little egg on your face.
Yeah, and I think they're probably one of the teams that's the exception to the rule, because I mean, they came down and that shot was in the air in like 6 seconds. It seemed like. I mean, they were not messing around. So, but a big win. So we'll see. Does it carry over into Saturday? I mean, it's got to.
I mean, you have to. I mean, you got to win them at home. I mean, that's the moral of the story. I mean, you can lose games on the road all you want, as long as you win games at home. You could get to that close to that 500 mark in the SEC. You're going to have a chance to get into the tournament. Talking about the NCAA, not just the conference tournament. Yeah. And South Carolina is sitting there right in the middle. They're 2-2 in the league, but they've got a really good overall record. I mean, there's no layups in the league outside of Vanderbilt. So, I mean, Arkansas may have the second worst overall record in the conference.
Yeah, I mean, you guys,
Missouri's 8-9, Vanderbilt's 5-12, and Arkansas's 10-7.
Yeah.
Everybody else has got a better record.
Yeah, you've got to hold serve at home, and you've lost your one home game to Auburn. You can't afford any more, and now you got to go at some point steal one on the road, if not two. Yeah. So, yeah.
Well, you got at Missouri, at LSU coming up into the month. You think that maybe you can get one, or maybe if not both of those. Obviously, those are no longer gimmies. At Mississippi State, at A&M, and you got two brutal ones to close the year. So there's not a lot of gimmies on the road. We knew that, but there is a couple that are gettable.
But we need this. I don't think anyone feels there's any gimmies for this team at this point. So we shall see. Our next headline: the NFL coaching carousel. Okay, everybody's tweeting out they've interviewed Bill Belichick and they've interviewed Jim Harbaugh, but they don't tweet anybody else that they've interviewed, which I find interesting.
Yeah.
And those two are still unemployed. The Eagles are going to make a decision on Sirianni. The fact that he's not been fired at this point is mind-boggling. The Cowboys are bringing back McCarthy, which is a little surprising. I mean, it's kind of wild, Bobby, because you have all these names out there. You got Vrabel, you got Belichick. Tomlin walks away after the game, but he said he's coming back. You've got all these top candidates, and nobody's making a move. It's weird, isn't it?
Yeah. I think the Cowboys announcing that McCarthy's coming back was the first domino to fall.
Okay.
Because that was the job, the big names, maybe the Harbaughs, the Belichicks, that type, we're waiting on. It did come out early this morning. Here we are on Thursday, that Belichick's getting a second interview with Atlanta. So why Atlanta would need a second interview, why Bill
Yeah.
Belichick feels that he needs to have a second interview. To me, that meeting is about not financial, not do we want you as our head coach. It's how much control do you have versus how much control does the intact general manager down the line have. That's going to be always the question with Belichick.
Mm-hmm.
How much control do you give him, or do you just want him to be your coach? Harbaugh, to me, is the one that makes the most sense for several jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Makes a lot of sense for the Chargers. Makes a lot of sense for the Raiders. Belichick makes a ton of sense for the Chargers. For the Falcons, really doesn't make any sense at all, other than he's got a chance to win a really bad division for a couple of years.
I think that's the key right there.
And so maybe if you take the Falcons job, you've got a top 10 pick. Yeah, but you're not. But you're got a top 10 pick, but you don't have a top 3 or 4 pick. And do you have the ammunition to go up and get it? I don't know if you do or not. And so I don't know. I mean, Atlanta's kind of stuck in limbo. It's kind of like what the Jets have been for the last 15 years. Mm-hmm. They've been bad, but not bad enough to get a pick that means anything. And when they finally did get a pick that was that good, they wasted on Zach Wilson. And so it's kind of stuck in purgatory. And, the Patriots right now have the 3 pick and Gerard Mayo. That's a pretty good position to be in. Like, so if you're walking in and you say, I don't have the NFL draft order brought up, but like you're going into it, the Chargers is by far the best job because you've got a quarterback. And you've got a really good draft pick coming in. So you could, maybe move up and get an offensive lineman. Maybe you can get Marvin Harrison Jr. if you feel like you need a receiver, which they don't. Because obviously they got Keenan Allen and Mike Williams coming off the injury. They draft the kid from Johnston from TCU last year, but they need offensive line help. Mm-hmm. And so maybe you take that tackle from Penn State, that tackle from Notre Dame, and then that makes a lot more sense. So you got to believe the Chargers are the first one to make the decision because they've got the pick of the litter, right? If they want Harbaugh, they can get Harbaugh. If they want Belichick, they can just offer him the job and they get Belichick.
Yeah.
I think that's the first one that makes the most sense because who the Panthers hire doesn't matter to anybody.
No, you're not winning there. Well, it's just surprising that it's taken this long. I thought for sure the dominoes would have already started to fall by now.
Yeah,
and
I'm with you.
And now everybody's holding pat. Or maybe Philadelphia is the domino that starts it all. If Sirianni gets the boot, because that's a good job. Because you've got a quarterback, you've got some talent. Mm-hmm. They're older, but it's not a rebuild like some jobs are. So,
yeah. Saw a really interesting headline today. I'm trying to find out who, so I can give them proper credit, who had it. Interview for the offensive coordinator job with the Bears today.
Yes, Mr. Kingsbury.
Cliff Kingsbury.
Yes.
Yeah.
Who coached Caleb Williams. Who's already said he didn't want to go to the Bears. So this is the Bears. It's got to be the Bears' way of saying, what if we hired Cliff? Will you come then? So if you're Justin Fields, do you end up in Atlanta playing for Belichick? And does that –
right.
I mean, that's got to make you the favorite in that division at that point, right?
Yeah, you believe so. I mean, they need weapons too. But if you put – Justin Fields behind an offensive line that's not you and me, maybe he's pretty good.
Yeah.
Still had a pretty good year. I mean, they won, 8 games this year? Still had a pretty solid year. That would be a game changer. And that would also be the Bears' way of saying, hey, we're all in on you. We're committing to you. And also, what is Justin Fields worth? Is he worth a top 10 pick right now? Is he worth a top 20 pick right now? Is he worth a future number 1? Those are the questions that I don't have as a general manager. I wouldn't give up a top 10 pick for him, but I was never high on him coming out of high school or college.
Yeah.
But say you are the Falcons and you've got the number 8 pick and you've got Bill Belichick or a brand new head coach coming in. To you, is that worth going out and making that trade?
I think you could get him for a 3rd round pick, to be honest, because the Bears have no leverage.
Correct.
In a sense, if they're going to take Caleb at 1, then they've got a quarterback they've got to get rid of. So why? Yeah. And they're the Bears. They're don't forget they're not the smartest cats.
Yeah.
So why would you give them anything less than a third?
Yeah, I was actually thinking about that same scenario. Just a little different is okay. So if Caleb Williams comes out and says, "I'm going pro, but I'm not playing for you, Chicago,"
Hmm.
the value of the number one pick just went down because they
Oh,
know that you
totally.
have to trade it.
Yeah, yeah. It's the Eli to the Chargers all over again.
Hmm.
So
But
yeah,
there's no
then
Philip
you're
Rivers.
stuck. Yes.
Yeah, but there's no Philip Rivers to dangle out there either.
Yeah. So and then I'd also heard that oh he interviewed Kingsbury would go with Antonio Pierce to the Raiders if he gets that job or if he gets a job elsewhere because he's
Yeah.
also interviewed some other places. So
Hmm.
Kingsbury's going to be a hot commodity. So we'll see, but it's just kind of surprised nothing's falling in. And the Twitter on the interviews, why on earth would a team tweet out that they've interviewed Jim Harbaugh or Bill Belichick and not tweet out the other interviews, or are they just playing with the fan base and their
Maybe
emotions?
that. I don't know the protocol because clearly they're forced to at least be transparent about who they've had interviews with
Mm-hmm.
because you see Schefter all the time reporting so and so just finished an interview.
Yeah,
Obviously that probably has a lot to do with the Rooney Rule, etc.
yeah,
But you're right. I mean, they weren't promoting. It's like, oh, we interviewed our defensive coordinator for the
yeah,
position. Harbaugh and Belichick are getting those things, and maybe that's to test the waters a little bit with your fan base. Like,
yeah,
hey, how would you feel about this?
yeah. Because I mean, it's. Let's be honest. It's not satisfying the Rooney Rule to
Yeah.
interview either one of those guys, and I don't ever recall a team saying, "Yeah, we interviewed this because if you don't give them that job, you look crazy. It's like
Hmm.
what were you doing even interviewing them? I mean, it's like asking the Miss America out for a date when you had no chance in hell of it happening,
Yeah.
but you tweeted out. It's just I don't
Yeah,
know.
I mean
Bizarre.
because let's be honest, the Falcons don't need to interview Bill Belichick or vice
Oh
versa.
no.
All they have to do is say, "Hey, would you be interested in coaching our slappy of a franchise?" And
Yes.
that's it.
There's
That's the
no
interview
interview.
process.
Yeah, there's no
Yeah.
interview. It's a question.
Uh huh.
Would you be willing to take our job? You
Yeah.
know
Is
what?
$12 million a year enough?
Yeah.
Yeah,
How
that's
much?
essentially what it is.
Yeah. Do you want a stake in Coca Cola or Home
Yeah.
Depot? I mean, come on down.
You can have the lumber aisle at Home Depot. How about that?
Exactly. I mean, it's like, yeah. What are they? I mean, really? What's the job interview with Bill Belichick going to be like? So, would you care to talk about your resume? I mean, come on. Hey, all he's got to do is hold up his hands. Look at the
Yeah.
rings. I mean, it's the
Yep.
closest the Falcons have come to him. So,
Yeah.
who knows? It's just crazy. All right. Final headline. It's not really a headline. It's a question. Chili. Is it with beans or
Mm.
without beans?
If you would ask me this question yesterday, I probably would have said with. But
Yes.
today I
Oh.
had chili at lunch without beans,
Oh,
and I was
really?
a really big fan. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
So I'm actually leaning without.
Wow. I've never tried that. Because I've been eating. I don't know what it is. When it snows, it's like
Yeah.
That's all I want to eat is chili. If it's
No,
below
I
freezing.
had chili for my third different meal this week today.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
I'll eat it every meal but breakfast.
So the worst part about it is the first two, like we made it at home. Today I actually chose to order chili at a restaurant.
Really. It was
Yeah.
good. Obviously.
It was good. So the guy, because I came into the office and there's a few of the other guys here too. So we went to lunch and he ordered chili with a grilled cheese sandwich. And I was like, you know what? That sounds pretty good. Because I was just going to go fat guy and order a burger.
Yeah.
And it got there and it's like the grilled cheese on like the thicker Texas toast type stuff.
Ooh.
And I got to thinking, you know what? That one, it was delicious. But like, does Texas toast, not like the garlic, but just like regular
Yeah.
thicker toast
Thicker. Yeah.
and the chili replace my preference, which is cornbread? Like now I got things to
Yeah.
think about.
Ooh.
It was delicious, by the way.
Yeah. I'll have to try that. Have you ever put brown sugar on your chili?
Yeah, all the time.
Okay. I discovered that last year, and it's just like glorious. So
Yeah,
okay.
brown sugar in the chili and brown sugar in the little smokies, little beanie weenies.
Ooh,
Fantastic.
Yeah, there you go. All right. Okay. Next up, we shall recap the NFL games from last weekend. Dramatic music there. Browns, Texans. Who saw this one coming? CJ
Yeah,
Stroud
clearly not me.
put a whooping
Not
on
bad.
him. Well, I just thought the point spread was too much, but I didn't think they'd go nuts like this. Wow, and then the
Yeah.
Browns end up firing their offensive coordinator as a result. I mean,
Yeah, because it's his fault that 5 quarterbacks had to play for him this year. I
yeah,
mean,
I
that
mean,
doesn't make any sense.
but I guess the Browns are going to Brown, right?
Yeah. CJ Stroud's a stud. I
Woo!
mean, there's nothing more you can say about it. 4,100 yards, 23 touchdowns, 5 interceptions this year
And
for a rookie.
the receiver Nico Ryans.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean,
Collins.
Nico Collins.
Yeah.
Holy cow! Those two, they're going to be wreaking havoc for a while.
Mm-hmm. You throw Tank Dell in the mix too when he's healthy. Uh, the Texans are the team of the future in the AFC. Don't know if they ever win a Super Bowl, but with DeMeco Ryans as the head coach, that quarterback, and those skill receivers they've got, they got a chance to be competitive for a few years.
The only thing that can screw them up is ownership,
Mm-hmm.
and it's possible with the McNair family.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately. So, Dolphins Chiefs, ridiculously cold.
Yeah, you sent me the picture after the
Yeah.
game. How long did it take your hands and toes to thaw out?
I'll tell you what, my phone died 3 times. I would try to
Yeah.
take a picture and hold up the phone, and it would die. It would crash, internally
Because it's too cold.
Because it was so stinking cold. Hey, the warmest spot though was actually our seats, because we were in the
Really?
corner, so the wind was blocked. Because you're looking, we were in the north. We were on the Chiefs side on the north end, so it was blocking the wind, thankfully. And you look over and you see the World Championship flags, and they're like not only straight, but they're pointed up. The wind was that fast. And you're just like, oh, this is insane. And about 7 minutes left in each half, my fingers and my feet started getting numb. So, but I mean, other than that, I mean, it wasn't too bad. But then you go down on the concourse to try to find a warming station. No signs. Can't find them. And the wind is not blocked down there. And it was absolutely brutal. So, and
Coldest you've ever been? Top 5?
Oh, top 5, easy. I'm trying to think. I think the 2000 cross country championship in Ames, Iowa was colder, but then I wasn't prepared for it. I think it was -19 and it was -39 with the wind chill, and we had no idea, but we were prepared for this. So yeah, but it was cold. I would not do it again. my son, it was his 20th birthday, so we went, and he said, "Oh man, I can't believe you wouldn't do it again." Well, been there, done that, but
Yeah.
I mean, and players without sleeves, insane, because you're going to hit the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And the number of people drinking beer. I mean, I like beer, but it's below freezing. And of course, it would freeze as soon as they'd open it. So crazy.
Pointless at that point.
Yeah, I mean, if you're the Dolphins, it was 70 degrees when you left Miami. And it was -7 when when the game kicked off.
I actually watched their Hard Knocks of that week today.
Oh yeah,
it's bad.
Yeah, I don't know how you prepare.
I don't know how your body adjusts to that. Like, at least if you're a Chiefs fan or you live this part of the country, it's been cold for a week. But you're sitting there. You play at home last week. It's 70 degrees. You're practicing in shorts and t-shirts, and all of a sudden you're having a Vaseline up your skin to keep the heat in.
I mean, it's just nuts, and you knew it would hamper their ability to be fast.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And Tyreek played, pretty well. And the one pass Tua threw up to him that he caught that he underthrew, that thing was into the wind. And I mean, and I know everyone says Tua doesn't have great arm strength, but that was pretty hellacious pass to throw into the wind like that. So
yeah, it's the Miami is built for a fast track. They really needed to beat Buffalo at home in Week 18. When they lost that game, any chance of them making a serious playoff run was over. If that game was in Buffalo, they would have had a better chance because of the field surface, obviously the turf. But you're playing on essentially frozen tundra. They had no chance to win that game. Mostert's been banged up. You haven't seen a team with so many injuries in a long time. You talk about Mostert and Waddle and so many guys on the defensive secondary and the linebackers, and they're down to like 5 practice squad defensive ends, like guys who weren't even on the roster. I mean, they were held together by duct tape and Band-Aids that's essentially at the end of the year.
Yeah.
And they had no chance. And I honestly, the game could have been a whole lot worse than it was, 26-7, just the way it played out.
Yeah. Did you have problems with Peacock? Because there were a lot of complaints that
No,
Peacock was
but we've had Peacock though.
Okay. So you didn't
we didn't have any issues.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then we
so
saw
for you men out there, for the men out there watching, the only reason we have Peacock, or if it had Peacock, is the wife watches those. We're X-rated around here. Those bullshit drama shows, Bravo and all that. It's just women screaming and yelling
Peacock?
at each other.
Oh, Project Runway and that kind of stuff.
No, it's just like the Housewives and the Southern Charm and all those shows.
Worse. Okay.
It's excruciating. Like, I literally have to get up and leave the room when that comes on.
Wow, that's insane. Yeah, and then I saw 23 million people watch. So I think we're going to have to get used to the fact that this is going to be more and more of a thing streaming with the NFL. So the Packers Cowboys. Wow, the final score obviously is much closer than the ball game. And and I know some folks that went down and were like, "Oh my gosh!" I mean, at least the Chiefs won and it was cold. The Cowboys and Jordan Love. Holy cow! Yep. I mean, he's a superstar now, right? Or are we crowning him too early?
The way he's played in the last 10 weeks, I mean, he's knocking on the door of superstar. I mean, when you see the breakdown of his first 9 games in the last 10 or vice versa, whatever it is, the number, it's crazy. You're talking like 22 touchdowns and 1 interception. He started to figure it out. Obviously, this is his first year playing the position full-time as a starter. Can the franchise hit on 3 quarterbacks in a row, though? I mean, that like the odds have to catch up with you at some point. But my gosh, I mean, he was just picking apart the Cowboys defense, and maybe Dan Quinn shouldn't have spent so much time thinking about other jobs, because I know everybody was ripping on McCarthy, an offensive coach. Everybody was ripping on Dak, a quarterback. Neither one of those guys gave up 48 points. The Cowboys defense, which is supposed to be one of the best in the league, got schooled and torched by the youngest offense per age in the NFL.
Yeah. We had a friend, they were coming back, they're like, how are the roads? And it's like, well, the roads are definitely more covered than the Packer receivers were yesterday. And I don't think they appreciated that. But, I mean, holy cow. Maybe, and you mentioned the Packers, but you think about it. They draft a quarterback and they let him sit for a couple years and adjust. Maybe there's something to that. You look at Mahomes, he sat for a year and then adjusted, instead of just, like the Texans did with Carr and some of these other teams where they just throw the kid out there to the fire and, God, if he survives the first 3 years, maybe that's Trevor Lawrence's problem. I don't know. But maybe there's something to be said for that.
There is. I mean, but there's also the Trey Lances of the world who sat for 3 years and still doesn't get it.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's such a crapshoot, no matter what position, but the quarterback especially. But Jordan Love gets it. I mean, and maybe Green Bay's just really good at spotting it, historically.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's unreal. And if he goes out and plays anywhere close to like he has in the last 6 weeks or so against the 49ers this weekend, I mean, you kind of have to anoint him. You really felt like, especially with all the turmoil around the Vikings and potentially losing Cousins, that this is going to be Detroit's division for the next 5 years. And Green Bay has completely hit the reset button on that thought, just by the way they've played down the stretch.
Oh, no question. Now, with the Cowboys, bringing McCarthy back, probably, I mean, do they even lose Quinn now? Because it's like, after that performance, I mean, Seattle might, since he has a history there, but I don't know. I mean, you hire him because he's a great defensive mind, and he got torched. Dak, what is it about Cowboy quarterbacks in the playoffs since Aikman? Romo struggled, and now Dak is just awful.
That's a great question. And if we had the answer, we'd be coaching the Cowboys. CeeDee Lamb disappeared. He wasn't getting open. Then, honestly, that first drive for Green Bay, when they just marched down the field and put it in the end zone, was the Buster Douglas uppercut that all of a sudden rocked the Cowboys, and they didn't know what they were doing. They didn't try to run the football. They kind of got out of who they are as a team. I mean, they had 25 rushes in the game, 123 yards. Those aren't bad numbers.
It's
I don't
almost
know.
like they just thought they could just show up. Hey, we're the Cowboys. We're at home. We're hot stuff. The Packers are young. They don't know nothing. And I mean, it almost looked like a team that just totally thought they were just going to come in and roll.
Mm-hmm.
And then they got hit in the mouth, and they didn't know what the hell to do. It was I mean,
Yeah.
Dak, they're Marty Schottenheimer in a sense. They're great in the regular season, but they stink in the playoffs. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a different game. It's like
I know. It's crazy to
why
think we're talking about this. An
yeah.
offense that had 525 yards.
Well,
Well, I know
a lot of
a
that
lot of
came
it's
late though. Yeah,
yeah,
because they
but
were down. They were down what, four or five scores before they even had
yeah.
showed a pulse. I mean, it's like,
Mm-hmm.
go get Derrick Henry for God's sakes. If nothing else,
Yeah.
sit him for 15 weeks and then trot him out, get him warmed up, and then he's your X factor in the playoffs.
Yeah. That drive right before the half, they're down 20-0. And coming out of the timeout, and everybody's talked about it. They show the close up of CeeDee Lamb chirping that he's not getting the ball enough, and so you probably feel like, okay, they're going to try to force it to him. And the Packers read it perfectly. The safety's sitting right there, and
Mm-hmm.
Dak throws it right to him, and the game's over at that point.
Yeah.
Because if they go down and score, and they don't throw the interception, and it's 20-7, they get the ball to start the second half. You go put some points up. It's a brand new ball game. Instead, game's over.
Yeah. Well, even right before halftime, if they don't get the defensive penalty, they don't score.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and they're totally dead in the water at that point. So it was
Yeah.
just, I mean, and of course, Jerry's going to Jerry. I mean, it's just, what other owner has a post game press conference?
Well, it's Jerry Jones.
It's Jerry, and Jerry, I mean, he's insane. What can we say? Rams Lions, we actually had a good game.
Mm-hmm.
Hooray. And God bless the Lions fans who were bawling their eyes out afterwards. I mean, to think about it, cell phones weren't even a thing last time the Lions won a playoff game, which is totally crazy to imagine. But as much celebration about the Lions, man, I mean, this was a rebuilding year for the Rams, and they gave the Lions everything they wanted.
Yeah, it's the Lions, or excuse me, the Rams. Other than Matthew Stafford's age, have everything going for them in the future.
Oh, McVay.
That's going to be the one thing that's going to hurt them the most. Is Stafford's, obviously getting older, but Kyron Williams is going to be a stud running back. The receivers are amazing. How they're open all the time. I mean, Puka, sets the rookie playoff record for catches and yards at 181. But Detroit kind of did what I thought they were going to do. And they went Detroit all over this thing. I mean, they had a chance to put the game away early and just let them hang around.
Mm-hmm.
And this never would put them away. Granted, that final drive, they showed some stones and went for it on fourth down and then put the contest away. But awesome game, awesome atmosphere. And there's some guys talking about how that's the loudest game they've ever played in.
Wow.
And that says something when you hear that about an NFL game. Sure, it's in a dome, but when you say that about an NFL game and not a college game, that kind of shows you that Detroit needs something to go their way. I mean, the Red Wings are terrible. The Pistons had one of the longest losing streaks in NBA history, and the Lions haven't done anything ever. So finally, good to see them get something going their way. Love to see it go and keep going, but I mean, they're the Lions. I mean, can we put a lot of stock and faith in it?
No, we cannot. So we shall see what shakes with them. And then, of course, Steelers-Bills, I mean, it really wasn't that competitive. Though,
Yeah.
the Bills never really put they gave the Steelers ample opportunity. And the Steelers, of course, are so, I mean, they look like Iowa. They play like Iowa on offense.
Yeah.
They couldn't score to save their lives. But, if you're the Bills, you just want to win and move on, right?
Right. And Josh Allen, when he doesn't turn the ball over, is really good, right?
Yes. Very good. So that's all you can say about that. And then, of course, the beat down on Monday night. I mean, holy cow. I mean, the Eagles were just not even competitive. I mean, that was the amazing thing. I mean, yeah, the Buccaneers came out hot, and you thought, okay, you know, they hit the Eagles in the mouth, they'll come back, and the Eagles just absolutely they couldn't tackle. I mean, it was unbelievable that they are considered a professional football team. I mean, how do you not fire Sirianni at halftime?
Yeah. They're the favorite to win the Super Bowl 6 weeks ago. Just
Yeah.
think about that.
Everyone
They're
has
they're the
crowned them.
favorite, not like one of the favorites,
Yeah.
the favorite to win the Super Bowl,
Oh
and then
yeah.
they completely implode.
Conceded.
A team that's built like they are, best offensive line in football, quarterback who can run. They ran the ball 15 times in the game.
It
And
just
it's not
made
like
no
it got out of
sense.
hand. It really didn't get out of hand till at late third, early fourth.
Yeah.
Ran the ball 15 times. Your quarterback, Jalen Hurts, ran the ball one time. So unless he's really injured,
Hmm.
and they haven't really talked about it, or unless the offensive line is so banged up that they couldn't get a push, I don't understand how you throw the ball 35 times with Jalen Hurts. Granted, he's 25 of 35, not bad. Didn't throw
Yeah.
an interception. That's good. But you 35 passes compared to 15 runs doesn't make any sense to me.
When they couldn't even do the push tush or the
Yeah.
tush push. I mean, that was just like. I mean, it was like at that point they were just like they were done, and the Buccaneers could not put them away. They had ample
Mm-hmm.
opportunity to put them away, and they couldn't do it. But Mike Evans is probably
Ageless wonder.
the most underrated big time receiver. I mean, the guy just makes plays.
Yeah, agreed. And if I'm not mistaken, he picked a pretty good time to have a monster year and a contract year.
Oh, did
He
he
just turned
ever?
30. I get it. But the season that he just put together,
Oh,
unreal.
yeah, he's their lone weapon.
80 catches, 1,300 yards, always open.
Yeah,
Always. I mean,
yes,
for somebody who doesn't have elite top end speed, somehow he's always behind a defensive back. Dude is going to get paid. And I don't know if it's in Tampa. I mean, obviously, Baker Mayfield has solidified he's going to be their quarterback of the future
hmm
moving forward. And I don't know if Mike Evans decides to stay there or go try to play for a contender, but he's about to make some quarterback very, very happy. I don't care how old he is. Dude can get open. He's like Keenan Allen to me. Just
yes.
erase the age.
An athletic Steve Largent, or more athletic
Yeah.
Steve Largent. So
Yeah.
crazy. All right, let's get to the picks. Texans, Ravens. We got some big spreads this week. Ravens giving
Yeah.
9.5 at
Yeah.
home.
I mean, Lamar coming off 2 weeks off. To me, that worries me. Playoff
Yes.
Lamar is a thing. I'm not the only person who brings this up. So I'm going to take the Texans on the road. I know they played well. There's no chance in the world they play as well as they did last week. Ravens are really good. I don't think Baltimore can cover, considering they've been off essentially for 2 weeks.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'll take the points. Ravens probably win, but yeah, 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And a young team like the Texans who's playing well back to back, it's,
Mm-hmm.
a little mojo might happen. So we'll see. This line's crazy. The Packers, the same amount of points at the 49ers.
I'm going to say the same thing. I mean, coming off a week off, obviously the health of Christian McCaffrey is the one thing that matters most in this game. But I think Green Bay is playing well enough. Jordan Love is playing good enough to keep this one close. I don't like giving up 10 to anybody, so I'll take the Packers on the road.
I'm with you. I will take the Packers as well. In fact, I saw an interesting stat. Here it is. Let me pull it up. What running back finished the regular season with the most catches? Was it Alvin Kamara, Rashad White, Christian McCaffrey, or Brees Hall?
Well, Hall was missed some time, so I'll go Rashad White from Tampa.
I would have thought it was McCaffrey, but it was actually Brees Hall.
Huh.
Isn't that crazy?
That is wild.
I would have thought it was McCaffrey easily, but yeah, Brees Hall. So something to consider.
McCaffrey missed a couple games too, and then they shut him down in blowouts. And
but yeah, so his numbers not as big as you would think. Chiefs, Bills in Buffalo. You won't have to shovel your way to your seat for this game. That was crazy. The views from there. Chiefs getting 2.5.
First road playoff game for Patrick Mahomes.
Yes, in his career.
And that's all we've heard for the last 6 or 8 weeks. It's like, oh, the Chiefs have to finally go on the road. The Chiefs have to go on the road. You know, playoff Lamar Jackson, I've talked about.
Mm-hmm.
Playoff Josh Allen is someone that we don't talk about a bunch. He played really, really well last week, but he's got some clunkers in him, and he's going to turn the ball over, and he's going to make some dumb throws. And I think the Chiefs can force enough bad plays. I'm going to go Kansas City on the road.
Well, I will contradict that. I will take the Bills and give the points. Just, it seems to work for me. So I think it'll be a hell of a ball game. And everybody's saying, like everyone's saying, if the Bills are going to slay the dragon, their dragon that is the Chiefs, this is the opportunity to do it.
Got to do it now. You're right.
Yeah,
they played so well down the stretch, and the way they shut down the Dolphins' offense in Week 18. They hammered the Cowboys late. You're talking about a team that's won 4 or 5 in a row, and then you add the playoff game on top of that. I mean, they're playing really well, but it wouldn't surprise me to see Josh Allen come out and throw 3 interceptions either.
Yeah,
I really do. I mean, the spread says it, but I really do feel like this one is a coin flip.
Oh, I agree. Yeah, and granted, he can turn it over, but he can also produce points. The Chiefs in the red zone are abysmal. They've got to have a huge game from Kelsey. Rice has got to continue what he did. That's asking a lot of a rookie. Pacheco's got to be incredible. I don't know. I just think the Bills
does getting
are
Sky
better.
Moore back this week help?
Man, that's a lot to put on his plate for having not played recently.
Yeah, but 15, 20 plays.
I mean, it'll
can he
help.
make an impact?
Yeah, I mean, he could, but I mean, just the fact he hasn't played a lot up to this point. I mean, as you know, the playoffs are a different animal. So
yeah,
he'd have to have a monster game for them to have a chance, I think. Or they've
have you how much thought? Yeah, how much thought have you put into the Kadarius Toney lining up offsides? Is the play that cost you from hosting this game?
I don't. Oh, I try not to think about it. I don't think he plays another down in a Chiefs uniform, to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, he's injured. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. So, yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, what a difference. But, at some point, they're going to have to win on the road. I mean, you can't go your whole career and not have a road playoff game. But it would. But this team, given the way that they are built, a home game would be so huge.
Yeah. A lot of it's been made about him not playing any road games. Tom Brady didn't exactly play a ton of road games in his playoff career either.
No.
I mean, the very first one, obviously, when they were a wild card team, they went on the road and they won some games. But the divisional round against the Raiders was at home in the snow. Then they go to Pittsburgh. And then the late one against Kansas City that everybody remembers that went to overtime. But Brady didn't play a lot of road playoff games. So that's kind of an overrated aspect of it anyway.
I think it helps for guys that are in cold weather situations, in a sense.
Yeah.
Kansas City's cold, New England's cold, Green Bay's cold. So you go on the road to a dome, well, it's no disadvantage, or another cold weather site. I mean, what are you going to throw at them on the road that's going to hinder them if they're used to playing in cold weather? So I think there's an advantage there. So I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. I'm with you. That's a good point.
It's going to be interesting. And then the Buccaneers and the Lions, the Cinderella stories in the Motor City, the Lions giving 6.5.
So I was thinking all week, like what do I need to do to get the Lions and the Texans in the Super Bowl? One, it starts with this. And I got to thinking, it's like as crazy as last week was and loud as it was at Ford Field, can the fans back that up again, especially against a storyline that it's not there, other than reporters asking how cold it's going to be for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this week, which I'm hoping is on the docket of things to talk about today.
Yes.
I don't think this is interesting. I don't think it's close. I don't this is probably going to be the least exciting game to watch, and I really think Detroit hammers them. I think
Wow.
Detroit is a better team. Tampa played out of their mind last week, and I just don't see Tampa getting up for this game on the road. So give me the Lions.
Wow. I'm going to take the Bucks and the points. I think the Lions win, but I think there was just so much emotion last week and adulation. I mean, you got to put that behind you. I think that's going to be tough. And if the Bucks can get on them early,
yes,
and get a lead, then and I don't know. I like Campbell's aggression, but I think sometimes it's going to work against him. It's going to bite him.
Mm-hmm.
So, and at this point, I mean, it's crazy to think we're down to 8 teams.
One of these teams is playing for a trip to the Super Bowl next week.
Yes, I mean,
That's what's crazy.
Insane? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, who knows? But yeah. So the reporter question. For those who didn't see it, somebody asked Raheem Morris how they were going to adjust to the cold weather in Detroit, not realizing that Ford Field is a dome stadium. But I saw where someone did note that the station that person was representing was actually a news person because they cut their sports department.
Yeah. Yeah. So they used to have a 3-person sports staff, and now they have nobody in sports.
Yes.
At a market that has 3 professional sports teams.
I know. Isn't that
Let that
insane?
sink in.
Yeah.
They got a pro baseball team, a hockey team, and an NFL team. An NFL team, by the way, too, has won a Super Bowl in the last couple of years.
Yeah. The hockey team's won the Stanley Cup in the last 10 years.
And the Rays have been pretty good.
Yeah. They've been in the World Series. So.
But like, how do you sit in a meeting? I understand not everybody does sports. I get it.
Yeah.
But how do you sit in a meeting of people in your market and in your position and say, hey, let's send so-and-so to a press conference and ask about the weather. And nobody knows. Says, hey, don't you know the Lions have played in the dome since the 60s? Like, this is their second straight dome.
Yeah, that's true. They've never.
But also, like, if you're working on that story, right? So this could be 100% news person. I'm working on that story for my TV station. I'm probably going to Google Detroit Stadium, see what some past snow games have looked like, right?
You'd think. I mean, it's like it's like really you're at a press conference talking about a playoff game, and that's going to be your question. The weather, when no one else has brought it up.
Right.
I mean,
especially after you just saw granted, we got to give her the benefit of the doubt because she didn't watch the Chiefs game because doesn't work in sports. She didn't watch the Bills game and had to move that game because of weather.
That's why she watched it, because she watched the Chiefs game because apparently she got the Peacock and was like, oh, it's gonna be. Yeah, obviously she didn't watch the Lions game last week.
Yeah, it's
bad.
It's embarrassing for media.
Oh,
and then. Because of course everybody knows the narrative that came out, just because of who asked the questions, like, "Oh, this is why women doesn't belong in sports." Blah blah blah.
That's not it.
And then you see that all over the place, and then you're like, "Well, no wonder TV stations suck these days because you've got news people trying to cover sports."
Oh yeah, they don't know it. It's insane.
Yeah,
and yet they want you to watch because they're the news and sports leader.
I mean, I've never understood that. Even at big markets where you don't have a sports staff, I mean, that's equivalent to sending you and me to go cover a quorum court meeting and a corrupt lawyer story.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It makes no sense.
What do you want from us? Like, you're setting your employees up to fail.
Yeah. I mean, how do you not have a sports department in Tampa, Florida, for God's sakes? Top 40 market.
Yeah, I'm literally going to type in Nielsen TV markets.
It's got to be. I mean, that's insane.
Let's take a look here.
Why did you even send a reporter?
13.
13. God, that's shameful.
It's one bigger than Detroit. 13 and 14 in Tampa and Detroit.
Wow. Mm-hmm. It's just, it's nuts.
It's embarrassing. I'm ashamed that I dedicated a decade plus of my life to that.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's crazy to think now. I mean, shoot, how many stations even have a 2-person sports team? Because the weekend
Yeah.
anchor's probably doing news reporter during the week.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Well, yeah.
crazy.
I mean, obviously, I came from Northwest Arkansas, so I know the most about that. We went from a 4-person staff, and they were a 2-person staff after we all left. 40-29, our biggest competition, was one person
Yeah.
for a long time. He got fired, and they didn't have an entire one. They didn't have one single sports person for the entire year.
Yeah, I remember they'd have the news anchors read the sports.
Yeah,
It was
and
crazy.
then the third station had a full staff, but all they did was the Razorbacks.
Yeah.
And oh, by the way, their Little Rock counterpart, their sister station, didn't have a single sports person because
They
they were
just
all there.
carried there.
Yeah.
It was nuts. I think when I was at 4029, we had uh 4 on-air people and 2 we had like 7, we had 6 or 7 people.
Mm-hmm. I mean, on a Friday night, we'd have 8 or 9.
Yeah. I mean, we had full time.
Yeah.
That was our sports staff was
Yeah.
7 or 8. And we went and
Yeah.
we traveled everywhere, and then toward the end you don't go anywhere.
The craziest thing, and TV's not far from it, but when I was at the Times Record, right when it's the second largest daily newspaper in Arkansas, or at least it used to be,
Yeah.
in Fort Smith. When I started in January of 2006, there were 9 full-time sports writers.
Wow.
9. There are 0 currently.
It's mind-boggling to me.
Yeah. I mean, granted, newspapers have died, and they did not progress, and they didn't do anything. Like we didn't start putting things online until like even after I was already there.
Uh-huh.
So they were really slow to get everything up to date. But they went from 9 to 0, which is crazy to think about. You got 50, I think it was like 55 high schools are in their market,
Yeah.
and they don't have a single sports person.
Well, see, that's to me the craziest thing we've seen. It's like, everybody's like, well, the newspapers are dying. Well, what are they good for? Local news. Well, of course. And local sports and all the high schools. And that was the great thing about the sports section, because you can get all the national stuff off AP, whatever. But you couldn't get the local stuff anywhere. And then they cut all that out. And then they wonder why everybody doesn't want the paper. Because there's no coverage.
Exactly.
It's crazy.
Like, why would I want to subscribe to a local paper when it's nothing but national content?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, Democrat Gazette talking to you. Oh, you'll give me an iPad. Okay, great. And granted, I'm subscribed, but it's like, well, the Monday paper's a joke because it's nothing but AP articles.
Mm-hmm.
I'm reading it for the local stories because you can get the national stuff everywhere. So, yeah, it's just it's nuts how that industry has evolved, and I don't know, to do it over again. I think you'd be crazy to get into it, wouldn't you?
Oh, for sure. Well, I mean, Arkansas State just cut to their journalism program.
What?
I don't know if you saw that.
No.
Yeah.
When did that go
down? So last week is when I saw it. Sorry, I'm trying to move a calculator around on my desktop. So last week they announced that they're getting rid of their journalism program because lack of interest and lack of students enrolling. And so I think it's like next year or the year after. So maybe 25 or 26 is going to be the final graduating class. And so they're no longer taking new enrollees. But if you think about it, we had a president for 4 years bash media members. Why would you ever want to go be in a profession that just gets hammered by the public? And now everybody, like you and me, you got a microphone, got a computer. Yeah. We're media.
Podcast, yeah.
Got a podcast. I mean, we can start a blog.
We can start a website, and we'll be on social.
And it's so easy to do now. You don't need to go to college to do it.
True, but nobody's figured out how to make money on it.
Also true.
Which makes it interesting.
Yeah, that's why we do this for fun, and we have real jobs.
Exactly. We're not trying to be, we're not trying to. Yeah, that's a whole nother rant. So
yeah.
All right. Final words on this lovely Thursday, Mr. Swofford.
Yeah, so I put it up on Twitter earlier today, and so Harding won the Division II football national championship. School here in Arkansas. They have signed or have committed 3 running backs from our state.
Awesome.
If you pay attention to high school football, you probably recognize the names. But Dax Goff from Boonville, Deshaun Chairs from Elkins, Bo Williams from Shiloh Christian.
Oh, that's a three-headed monster right there.
Those three guys, not in their career, this season ran for 6,500 yards and 108 touchdowns.
Wow. Wow, I didn't realize all three were going to Harding. I mean, those are all three outstanding running backs.
So Goff signed early.
Wow.
Chairs and Bo Williams both committed yesterday. I mean, so obviously a team that runs for 6,000 yards in college football is going to get some big-time recruits. Oh, mind you, every player they had, their top 6 rushers from last year's team, all coming back. And so these guys get to go sit and wait and watch and learn how to run the flex bone. Of course, the Boonville kid, Goff, they run the flex bone in high school.
Mm-hmm.
But 6,500 yards between those three players. I would argue 3 of the top 4 running backs in the state. Obviously, a kid from Benton who's going to play for the Razorbacks.
Mm-hmm.
Most people think he's the best running back, but those 3, 2, 3, and 4, no question, all going to play at Harding, which is really cool to see those kids stay in state.
That is cool. And that's, well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to jump on the Harding bandwagon because I've seen those kids. Those kids can flat out play.
Yeah. There's some talk that Goff, who actually led Boonville in tackles too, may play linebacker, which is scary to think too. That guy running sideline to sideline.
Oh, geez, that's awesome. Well, that's great for Coach Simmons, I believe it is at Harding. I mean, that is. Hey, you win a national championship, man. People want to go there. I mean,
winning is the only recruiting tool you need.
Yes, facilities are great, but do you win?
Yep, that's right.
People want to be a part of it. Well, all right. Well, hit us up. You can see the Twitter handle and the email. Let us hear from you. We'd love to hear from you. It's actually going to be, isn't it? It's so funny to think, okay, it's 43 degrees outside, which normally is cold. It was 32 yesterday, and it felt like you should put shorts and a T-shirt on. Yeah. It's just absolutely nuts.
Shorts, baby. It's that warm now.
There you go. Now,
it's a heat wave.
Speaking of shorts, did you wear shorts on the set pretty much all the time?
On the weekend, I did, yeah.
Okay. Good.
Shorts and flip-flops.
Yeah. Oh, I did too, and everybody acted like that was the craziest thing. It's like no one sees.
Well, I mean, most of the time, especially on the weekend, there's not many local sports other than the stuff going on with the Razorbacks. There's no local sports going on the weekend.
Yeah.
And when I was on weekends, I was in Fort Smith, and so I didn't have to go to all the U of A stuff.
Okay.
And so I'm literally sitting at a desk for 9 hours. So what do I need to put on a suit for?
Yeah. Oh,
pants for that matter.
Yeah, I'd wear shorts and I'd kick the shoes off and wear flip flops on there. I mean, you might as well be comfortable in the air. I mean,
no doubt.
Nuts. All right. Well, that'll do it for this edition of the Hospitality Room. For Mr. Swofford and Mr. Cartwright, we'll talk to you next week on the Hospitality Room presented by Mascot Media.